Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, good afternoon. Carl Deffenbaugh here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, joining you on this Tuesday afternoon, April 8th, getting you ready for what we will see over the next hour or so here from our Milwaukee studios. We have the ability, as you're seeing those screens behind me here, to take you around our viewing area here in southeastern Wisconsin, around the entire state, and across the country as well. So to give you a sense of what's happening on this Tuesday, we're going to get to a crash that happened just moments ago with our reporter getting set in the field right now. But some of the other things we hope to hit over the next hour with you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. This is a live look from our Estabrook Park tower camera zoomed in on Lakeshore State Park. You're seeing a few of the other buildings, including the Port of Milwaukee in the background, but just kind of on the middle left there is a sliver of grass, part of Lakeshore State Park. There's actually a controlled burn going on there through the DNR and other agencies conducting this on this Tuesday afternoon. So if you're in the area, if you're downtown and you see smoke coming from Lakeshore State Park, that is actually intentional, going through a controlled burn. We can take you around the rest of the country as well. This is a live camera down in Gainesville, Florida, I believe, preparing for the return of the national champs. The Florida Gators won the NCAA's March Madness last night and edging over Houston. Great defensive stand by the Gators to hold off Houston in the final. And as you can see, plenty of students and fans preparing for the return of their team, the national champs. And while that happens, the press secretary, Carolyn Levitt, is also taking questions right now at the White House. So a lot happening here on this Tuesday already, and we can bring it to you, all of it to you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. But we do want to start here with what's happening in our area of southeastern Wisconsin. Bringing in Durante Matthews, our reporter. Durante, you can share a little bit. We'll certainly see some of it behind you over your shoulder there, both smoke and the remnants of a crash. But tell us first and foremost where you were, what you saw, and why this is quite a plan change for you as well on this Tuesday afternoon.
Well, Carl, so we're out here in Caledonia, and we were just a couple of miles away working on a story about a shooting that happened yesterday when all of a sudden, I think it was around noon, we just started seeing this billowing cloud of black smoke in the distance. So I actually ran out, probably wasn't supposed to do that, to see what it was. And then we found out that it was two semi-trucks that was on fire. And I'm just going to step out so you can at least see the charred remnants of what is left. We're right next to the direct auto sales that's on 27th Street out here in Caledonia. And you can actually see one semi is just completely gutted from that fire. And I believe fire crews are still working on putting out the flames and the smoke from the other truck, but that huge cloud that we saw about 30 minutes ago, that has now dissipated to now this sort of cloudy poof of smoke that you can see right now. It's more of a brown, grayish tint, other than that huge just black cloud that we saw earlier. You can still see a couple of crews just gushing out water, trying to make sure that other truck is completely doused right now. Now, on our way over here, we did see a couple of state troopers sort of diverting traffic away from this area, but that didn't really help some onlookers from coming into some nearby parking lots just to check out what was going on. As far as the crews that we see here, the only one I can really make out from this distance is Raymond over here responding to this fire right now. But there's still this huge just whiff of smoke in the air. It actually makes it a little difficult to breathe on and off where we are, and you can see how close we are. We're just feet away from it. But yeah, again, just two semi-trucks is what we know so far. No idea what caused this fire or how it happened, but you can see that crews are still trying to put out one of them, and the other one right here is just completely hollowed out, just charred beyond belief from that smoke and that fire, actually.
That one certainly gets your attention, of course. That kind of draws the center focus there. I'm wondering, from your vantage point, I see there's some brush behind you as well, but can you see what, in terms of damage, how bad the other truck is damaged as well from where you're standing, Durante?
To be honest, not from where I'm standing right now. I'd probably have to walk around a little bit just to get a little bit of a better idea of what the other one is looking like. Actually, let me just walk this way just to see if I can give you a better idea of what I am seeing. I'll have the camera still focus on it from over there. Okay, so from where I am right now, I can get a better view of the other truck. It looks pretty similar to the one next to it that's in plain sight, the one that's just completely hollowed out. This one has a little bit more smoke coming from it, but I can't tell what kind of truck it is right now. Just again, it's just brown smoke just really covering everything, and crews over there just working to get that out. But yeah, both of them are just completely gone at this point.
Wow, it's quite the scene. And then we're seeing from your photographer's vantage point just kind of these continued clouds of black smoke kind of coming from the left to the right as we're seeing things through your photographer's lens here. So that first truck that's right in front of us, that's where we can see the smoke. Is that coming from the second truck or from some other part of this collision?
It's coming from both, actually, but the majority of what you're seeing looks like it's coming from the second truck that's a little bit out of our photographer's viewpoint right now. Yeah, I'm trying to get a good look at it. It's coming from both of them, but a majority of it is coming from that second truck.
And then is this a normal highway or a road in the area near Caledonia where you are, or is this kind of off? We see some of the chain link fence too, so I'm not sure if it's on like grounds of a company or anything like that. What can you kind of make out to put us there in your shoes?
So it looks like it's in a nearby parking lot, actually, not very close to the highway at all. Like, you would really have to come out of your way and pull into a couple of parking lots to even get here. Again, I said this was next to Direct Auto Sales, a parking lot. Just a couple of semis surrounding this. I'm actually surprised that no other vehicles besides these two were affected, just as like a chain link reaction to this fire, especially when you think about how big it was. But definitely out of the way for anybody just in their normal day-to-day commutes.
I mean, that is quite a scene right there. That truck just completely destroyed after it caught on fire as the result of this. Durante, last thing we'll ask you here for anyone just joining us on the Wisconsin Live Desk, tuning in and seeing those images that you and your photographer are bringing us. Just describe again, you guys were doing your normal reporting actually on a separate story, and then just how big those smoke plumes were that drew you to this location.
You could actually, yeah, again, Carl, you could actually see that smoke billowing in the air for miles. Like I said, we were a couple of miles down the road at a nearby gas station working on a second story, a separate story that is. When around noon, we just started seeing this huge smoke coming from, just coming in the air, and we were wondering, like, what is that? And some people say, you know, it could be a crash or something, and we got closer and noticed that it was actually two semis that were completely just engulfed in flames. Again, a majority of that black smoke is now cleared, so you can actually see the trucks itself, but you couldn't see anything. I want to say maybe about 15 minutes ago, if you were in this area near 27th Street, you couldn't see anything because it was all completely covered by that black smoke. So as we got closer, now some time has passed and fire crews have doused the vehicles. You can actually see the cause of it. But again, we don't know how they got on fire at this point. That's information that we're still working to get.
And as soon as we do, we'll try to share it with you both here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, Fox Local as well. Durante, thank you very much taking us to that scene. I'm sure a lot of drivers out in the area, just like you, saw that, wondered what the heck is going on this otherwise beautiful sunny Tuesday afternoon. So there you go. You bring us there in the moment here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Durante Matthews reporting for us. Thank you. We'll let you get back to your day as well. Now, while that continues in Caledonia, and hopefully we were able to answer some questions for anyone who noticed that today in and around southeastern Wisconsin, the press secretary for the Trump administration continues to take questions from the media at the White House today. This is Caroline Levitt at the podium right now. Let's listen in a whole number of things the administration is handling and answering, certainly when it comes to tariffs first and foremost. We'll listen into the press secretary from the White House.
1996. Well, President Trump is finally answering her call 27 years later. Nancy Pelosi can thank President Trump today for the 104% retaliatory tariff that will be going into effect on China. In 2007, Chuck Schumer spoke of our nation's crippling trade deficit, saying these are the kinds of records the American people don't want us to be breaking. The administration needs to move beyond words, take action now to reverse a trend that threatens our prospects for future economic growth. And Chuck Schumer said that in 2007. Finally, in 2025, President Trump is taking action. Recently defeated Democrat Sherrod Brown said on deficits in 2012 that our deficit then at China had reached an all-time high, and it was on pace to recede. Last year's record, the trade deficit had cost American workers millions of jobs at the time. These are the words of Democrats years ago It is about time America finally has a president who is taking action to restore those millions of jobs back to the United States of America, to boost our manufacturing industry. He's doing what's right for the American people. It will take a lot of labor. It will take a lot of effort. But that's exactly what the American people elected this president to do. He will be talking about our energy agenda at 3 o'clock today over in the East Room. As you all know, he will be signing a bill to unleash the might of our beautiful, clean coal industry in this country, which is a reliable energy source also for AI. There's a great story in Bloomberg today, actually, about the executive order that will be signed later. So we'll see you all there. I'll let the president speak more. We'll see you later. Thanks, guys.
And that was the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, there using Democrats' words against them, you might be able to say, when it comes to tariffs and the impact on the U.S. and the global economy, and specifically when it comes to China. That has been one of the big differences we have noticed over the last few days as the stock market impacts certainly fell quite a bit over the last few days. People wondering whether other countries would come to the bargaining table, as the Trump administration says some have, while China, one of the other biggest trading partners of the U.S., so many goods from China end up here in America, they have instead chosen to raise tariffs to match what the Trump administration has put out against Chinese products coming to the country. So there you hear the press secretary just a little bit discussing the back and forth there, and including using some of the words from years ago from Democratic leaders against them, so to speak. We are ready to take a short break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, but quite a few things to get to on the other side of this 2-minute break. First and foremost, we have a live picture for you here from Lakeshore State Park. I mentioned a wider view didn't quite show the smoke of this controlled burn happening right near downtown Milwaukee, but here you get a sense of it. And it's kind of funny seeing it, or odd, honestly, with some of the Summerfest stages and the amphitheater there in the background. The camera actually off to the right for a second had the Hone Bridge. So a beautiful sunshine day in Milwaukee. This is not what you'd expect to see if you were heading down for a walk in that gorgeous park right along the shores of Lake Michigan there. But this is not any issue of any kind, as there we get a look at both the BMO Pavilion and the amphitheater on the Summerfest grounds in the background, with the smoke at Lakeshore State Park in the foreground. A prescribed burn. They're trying to clear out, I believe, some of the brush and everything there in downtown Milwaukee at the park. While that continues today, we'll take you there and back. We are also going to check in with our own Bill Miston on the other side of this break. He's actually in the bottom right corner there, hard at work, checking up on his story today at the Milwaukee County Courthouse. The question here has been a pair of arrests recently made by ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, inside the Milwaukee County Courthouse. Now, immigration officials say this is what they're doing, their job, trying to get illegal immigrants out of the country, while Bill, we'll hear from, has spoken to other people who say this is a big problem for the U.S. justice system and the options for getting cases solved both here in Milwaukee and across the country. We'll get into some of that on the other side of this break here on a very busy day on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back, 12:45 on this Tuesday afternoon here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Carl Deffenbaugh joining you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We have the ability to bring you the news as it happens in the moment. We've dealt already with our Demarante Matthews telling us about a semi-fire, bad one, that led to plumes of smoke out near Caledonia. Many people probably noticed that driving around today. A controlled burn happening right now, a fire of a different kind, at Lakeshore State Park, right along the Summerfest grounds there. But that's a planned burn as they clear things out here at the beginning of spring. We also took you to the White House for the press briefing with the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. That just wrapped up, answering reporters' questions about some of the tariff implications and the White House's stance back and forth with China as a possible trade war continues to grow. And keeping an eye on this. This is from one of our sister stations down in Orlando. You know they're excited for their national champion Florida Gators as the team is supposed to return from the championship game. They won last night, a narrow one over Houston. We'll see what that has as it switches over actually to a live view of New York City there. Fun to drop in on some of our reporting partners in other parts of the country there, certainly celebrating their team, and for the rest of us, broken brackets here at the end of March Madness. But we want to get you now down to what I teased ahead of that commercial break. At the Milwaukee County Courthouse, quite a back and forth between Immigrations and Customs Enforcement officials and even the chief judge at the courthouse and other immigration lawyers here in Milwaukee, as Bill Miston joins us from the county courthouse. Bill, for people not as familiar with this story, can you get us up to speed on what the issues are? And let's start with what started all this, a pair of arrests by Immigrations and Customs Enforcement in that very building you're standing in.
We found out last week that Immigrations and Customs Enforcement had made 2 arrests of people who were in the courthouse. They made the arrests in the hallways of the courthouse as those people were in court for their hearings. One happened on March 20th as a person had finished up, as we're told by the chief judge, was in court here in the courthouse for an injunction hearing. We also understand that that arrest, ICE agents had made their actions aware to the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, and the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office was aware of that arrest. What the Sheriff's Office was not aware of was a second arrest that was made in the Public Safety Building last week. We still don't know what those individuals were here for, what cases they were here for specifically. We do know that one was here for an injunction hearing and the other was named as a defendant in another case, so presumably some sort of criminal case. We don't know what type of case it was, whether it was a misdemeanor or a felony, to what severity that case was, and whether or not those individuals have been convicted of crimes or not. Now, in talking with immigration attorneys, they say that ICE agents can affect detentions of people who are in the United States unlawfully if they have been accused of committing a crime, and then a civil process plays out. But the concern that officials here in Milwaukee County, from the chief judge, the county executive, county board supervisors, as well as local immigration attorneys and Latino advocacy groups, is that those arrests happened inside the courthouse, which is often a safe space for individuals, whether they are suspects that are returning to court to face hearings related to crimes that they have been accused of, or people that may be witnesses for hearings, whether they are victims of crimes or individuals are here to go through normal types of cases like probate cases, small claims, family court. And so the concern from leaders here in Milwaukee County is that ICE agents effectuated those arrests within the confines of the Milwaukee County Courthouse. And the concern there is that that could have a chilling effect on the justice system, where individuals who maybe are charged with crimes and are willfully coming to court don't want to appear in court for those cases, or people who are victims or witnesses in other cases may not appear in court. And that could cause problems for the judicial system, where people who are victims may not get the resolution that they need or want.
And that's an important thing to get into because it is kind of the crux of the story today, Bill. Not only separating what those people have been detained for, whether it comes to their immigration status or whatnot, from the location where they were in fact detained. And it's interesting to hear kind of the partnership with the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office as well there, the Sheriff's Department. So stress that again, what that could mean in terms of ramifications for the justice system, the legal system here in the U.S. if witnesses in the case, if victims don't come forward because they're worried that their immigration status could also become a part of that and kind of open themselves up to publicity, to an arrest, anything like that.
Yeah, and speaking with immigration attorneys, they say that one of the big concerns that they have is that, like I had said before, it would erode trust in the justice system, and that starts at the very basic level from when maybe someone needs help from some type of governmental service, whether that is something very benign like going to the Register of Deeds office and needing to declare property or record property and put that on the books, or even if someone is a victim of a crime. Do individuals who are undocumented call police or make a report about what happened out of concern that maybe then they could be opened up to some type of removal process from the country? So that's a concern from immigration attorneys, and a concern here specifically at the courthouse is that these arrests happen within the confines of the courthouse. And officials here say that that flies in the face of long-standing practice. However, other immigration attorneys I've spoken with say that these types of actions of looking up public records and when or where people might be has been done for a number of years by local, state, and federal agencies, and that has happened in the past, specifically after 9/11, but was rare since then. Immigration attorneys I've spoken with said that the priority of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement over previous administrations, Republican and Democrat, was to focus removal proceedings against people who were convicted of serious crimes or flagrantly flouting the law here in the U.S. And not necessarily targeting people who maybe were in court for traffic violations or are here with jobs, established with family, with children who are U.S. citizens, even spouses who are U.S. citizens. So what the county Board of Supervisors is looking to do next week, they intend to introduce a resolution to set up a committee of some kind to discuss the issues at hand and see what type of recourse, statutory recourse, the county may have, working with the sheriff's office, the chief judge of Milwaukee County, and other stakeholders here within the county courthouse complex to see if there's any statutory things that can be done to prevent what happened last week and last month from happening within the confines of the courthouse.
Let me ask you this. You use the term safe space there, and that it applies not just to the courthouse, but I know there's been some discussion of the ramifications for this change when it comes to other places. What are some of those other locations besides a courthouse or a federal building like this that are being discussed when it comes to the larger conversation about these safe spaces?
I'm sorry, Carl. I think you'd have to explain that a little bit more.
I think there was some discussion of.
I
think there was some discussion too of like whether this would similar patterns would apply to hospitals, to religious spaces, whether it's a church or a mosque, and other places that had traditionally perhaps been off limits from immigration's enforcement officials, but maybe not the case as we're seeing with the county courthouse. You think about a hospital. Do people go to get medical attention if they need it?
Yeah, I really don't have a good answer to that question. I'm sorry, I just don't think I have the requisite knowledge to speak openly about that, because specifically what was being discussed here today was at the county courthouse. Now, in the past, I can say that there have been strong suggestions, or that agents like Immigrations and Customs Enforcement would not effectuate arrests or detentions of people in certain places, such as schools or places of worship. But I don't think I can speak to how what happened here at the courthouse might have an effect on the areas that you're asking about.
Yeah, totally
regarding
understandable.
schools
That's
and
obviously
places of
where
worship.
the focus of your story is, right there at the Milwaukee County Courthouse today. Last question for you. When it comes to you said the County Board of Supervisors, what do you think the timeline is going to be like for this? Obviously, as we're seeing across the country, some of these arrests are happening by the day, by the week. What do you think the timeline is for what the supervisors will discuss and what that could look like in terms of a response to what we now know to be a possible action? Immigrations and Customs Enforcement has come into the county courthouse. They could do that again.
I think that's yet to be seen. I can't speak to how long a timeline there might be regarding this. We tried to get some answers about that, as well as what are you actually proposing and what type of, I guess, teeth that resolution or any type of statutory statute that would be put in place on the books regulating whether or not immigrations and customs enforcement agents could come into the courthouse. Generally speaking, a courthouse is a public space, including for other law enforcement. So it's unclear how that might play out.
Yeah. And interesting, too. I mean, you make the point. It is all public records as well that they're drawing on in many of these cases. We'll let you get back to that reporting, working on that story for us today. You can check out Bill's story later today on Fox Local as well as on Fox 6. Bill Miston reporting from the county courthouse. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it, man.
All right. Thanks, Carl.
As we continue to take a look around things here, both locally and nationally, we want to check in once again with some of the celebrations down in Florida, of course. The band getting ready for the arrival of their team, the Florida Gators, your national champions, after a really riveting game in the final matchup of March Madness, leading into April Madness, as you so to speak. They were able to hold off the Houston Cougars last night, 65-63. The students, the band, the cheerleaders we just saw moments ago, all ready to welcome their team back to Gainesville now that they get to wear those rings and raise that trophy, cut down the nets as the national champions here. No Cinderellas. It was all one seeds this year in March Madness, but that's part of the celebration beginning as they get the crowd hyped down there in Gainesville. We're going to take a short break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, see what we find for you on the other side, both locally, nationally, maybe even across the world. Never know what will pop up here from this desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. Carl Defenbaugh back here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, hanging out with you on this Tuesday. We can tell you it's a beautiful one in downtown Milwaukee where we are located as we give you a close-up view again of Lakeshore State Park. This is in downtown Milwaukee, right near the Summerfest grounds where a controlled burn is actually happening this afternoon. And we're going to try to check in once again with our photographer who's covering that for us today. So if you're driving around, maybe down near Discovery World or the Summerfest grounds, you see some smoke in the sky, that is the result of a controlled burn at the nearby Lakeshore State Park. Unlike what we saw out near Caledonia with our Durante Matthews reporting on a really gnarly looking semi-fire, a couple different trucks on fire, and that was sending massive plumes of dark smoke into the sky from Caledonia. That Durante said he and his photographer saw from miles away. Ended up tracking down that story. In the meantime, some of the other things we're having fun with here on this Tuesday afternoon, the Florida Gators, your national champions for 2025. The cheerleaders excited as they are getting ready to welcome their team back to Gainesville this morning. We'll get some of the atmosphere and the action from down there on campus after they had a nice little trip from San Antonio, the host site for this year's Final Four and National Championship game, won eventually by the Florida Gators as they got a key defensive stop. Walter Clayton Jr. coming up with a perfect going away present, according to the Associated Press, as Houston just wrecked at the end. A defense that had done so much throughout the day, thwarting Houston, gets him one more time. 65-63 the final last night if you stayed up late to watch it. That is what settled things when it comes to March Madness. The cheerleaders, the dance team, the band, they got it all going on down there in Gainesville for their Gators who are on their way back from San Antonio. When the team arrives, we'll certainly try to get that for you if it happens here over the next 30 minutes or so on the Wisconsin Live Desk. I know a lot of people, brackets busted, although one person in particular who we're about to speak to, Christina Venzel's, did quite well in our own FOX6 bracket pool. We can say that, so kudos to you, Christina, although we'll be talking about something quite a bit different when she joins us in just a little bit. The celebrations continuing in Gainesville. While that continues, I will try to bring up this feed for you from our own Christina. And Delaney Reed, our producer in the booth, standing by. I think you were working to get in touch with Christina there. Do we have her yet, Delaney, or still working on this?
Hey, still letting Christina get set up.
Gotcha, yeah.
But she should be ready to go soon.
And what is she chatting about once we join her here? I know there's been a bunch of stuff going on today. We'll get that from Delaney.
Yeah, Christina's talking about the woman who was attacked by a canine at Mayfair Mall.
This is right outside of Mayfair Mall, this video that has gone viral since. There was a fight at the mall that broke out. The mall has private security that they've worked with for a number of years, but that security did have a canine, a dog, that ended up biting this woman and not releasing that bite for quite some time. A lawsuit was filed just yesterday, actually, by that woman's attorney against both Mayfair Mall and the private security company. So Christina has been listening to some of the press conferences about that already today. We'll get an update on a really big story here in the Milwaukee area as we get out to the suburbs at Mayfair Mall as soon as she has it for us. In the meantime, the White House is the scene of the press briefing today. We just caught a little bit of the tail end of that from Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt today. Here's the good news for anyone with a 401k or anything else you're trying to keep an eye on these days. Let me pop this up for you. The latest on the stock market, of course, has been pretty much all in the red since the Trump administration announced sweeping tariffs against pretty much the entire world, foreign tariffs against all trading partners in varying degrees. Last week, it had been some of the worst days the stock market had faced since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. A different story today, though, as stocks had a big boost to start the day, although since then have kind of come back hovering around 0.7% up on the day. The S&P 500 had about a 4% gain by the early afternoon, but now just up 0.2% as those markets at least were in the green for a day. Some relief for people out there, although certainly plenty more volatility to come. A number of countries out there are saying they will go to the negotiating table or bargain with the Trump administration about evening out the tariff rates that their countries face, while others like China are doubling down, tripling down perhaps at this point, saying however high the U.S. raises those tariff rates for imported Chinese goods, China will match anything from U.S. producers coming into their country as well. And we'll see who blinks first in that standoff. While that happens, we want to take another break for you. We're going to let Christina get settled there and have much more on her story because it's a big one. Received attention all across the area after this woman was attacked by a security canine at Mayfair Mall and has since filed a lawsuit against the mall and the private security firm that had that dog. We'll get the latest from Christina after this break on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, good afternoon. Carl Defenbaugh back here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We're going to get to our reporter Christina Van Zelst in just a moment. An update on a story we've been following here in Milwaukee after an incident, a security incident at Mayfair Mall. But want to take you around because we have access to all these wonderful cameras around the country right now. The Florida Gators celebrating their champs as they are the basketball champions on the men's side of things for March Madness, beating the Houston Cougars last night 65-63 in San Antonio. They are on their way back to Gainesville now, and the crowd, the cheerleaders, all ready to celebrate their Gators and the title that they won. As that continues, also want to tell you about a beautiful day here in downtown Milwaukee. And hey, while we're on the topic of sports, this is, of course, the home of the Milwaukee Bucks here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. One of the rivals with Giannis for best player in the world right now has a brand new coach. That would be some breaking news. We just got the Denver Nuggets have fired their head coach, Michael Malone, along with their general manager. Stunning moves for a team that won the championship just back in 2023, so 2 years ago. But I guess this happens as the Nuggets have lost 4 games in a row, currently in 4th place, so not the top of the standings in the Western Conference like they had become used to with Nikola Jokic there leading their star lineup. But quite a shocker from the NBA as we just have a few games left, I believe 5 games left for the Nuggets before the playoffs begin. They have a new coach, a new GM on the way. Michael Malone fired 2 years removed from a championship. That's tough, although here in Milwaukee, Mike Budenholzer can probably relate with that feeling, unfortunately. All right, let's get out to far more serious news right now as Christina Van Zelst is standing by. Hey, Christina, you're outside of Mayfair Mall for us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. This has been a story really that started at the end of March, but catch us up to speed on what happened just this week, what you're covering today when it comes to this fight and a subsequent canine attack at Mayfair Mall.
Woman who was bit by a canine actually filed a lawsuit, but for people who are not familiar with this story, I want to take you back to what happened. So this was an incident that happened here at Mayfair Mall on March 28th. We heard from Wauwatosa police when this all first went down that there was a fight that occurred, and we heard from the woman who was bit. Her name is Amara Walls. She's 19 years old. Her attorney today made it very clear that she was not a part of this fight, but was actually trying to break it up. And there's video of this occurring where you can see Walls gets bit by a canine. And this week we also learned that that canine has since been moved to Indiana, and the handler was actually fired. So today's lawsuit, we heard from her attorney. We also saw Miss Walls herself. She was out on crutches. We know that she's been dealing with what her attorney says are severe complications from this bite. Now, one of the big pieces of this story, though, is since it was caught on video, it really did go viral. You can see in the video Miss Walls, the canine is on her ankle for about over a minute, and a lot of people were commenting on that video, a lot of theories out there about what happened. So today we again heard from her attorney about the lawsuit they're filing. There's no monetary value to it, but her attorney says they are suing Mayfair Mall. They're suing the handler involved in this case, who again has since been fired, and they're suing the property and the security company, which is called Andy Frayne Services. So a lot of pieces to this. We didn't hear from Amira herself today, but we also did hear from her mom. Her mom was here saying that the reason she was speaking to media was that she's hoping for better mall security in the future and doesn't want this to happen to anybody else. So there's a lot of pieces to this story, Carl, but again, it's really that video that went viral and is causing a lot of people to ask questions that hopefully will come out with this lawsuit.
It's interesting to hear there, Christina. So they're not seeking any monetary damages. I just kind of assumed, as is the case in many of these types of lawsuits, that there would be something for medical bills. You said she was on crutches and the like. So if they're not seeking money from this, what else is the attorney hoping to gain by suing both the mall and that security company?
Yeah, I actually want to read you a quote from her attorney, Bienvry Lamar. He said, quote, "They can move the canine out of state, they can fire the scapegoat, but they cannot outrun justice." So it sounds like their main goal is justice here. Of course, Amira Walls has several medical bills that she's also going to be dealing with. Her mom says that she's been seeing treatment at least 3 times a week, but that they didn't have a specific monetary number on this lawsuit. It sounds like it's all about justice and making sure that this doesn't happen to somebody again. And also they have a lot of questions about the canine and its history, its background and training. Same with that handler. The attorney said that he believes the handler was only on the job here for about 4 months. So there's a lot of questions in terms of the canine and what its background was like. And as I mentioned, they moved the canine to Indiana, but I think there's concern too of what the future for that canine is. We also heard that part of this lawsuit is that when there's a canine bite that occurs, the dog is supposed to be quarantined, I believe, for 10 days. And it sounds like that didn't happen in this case. So a lot of unanswered questions that the attorney addressed today that they're hoping to get answered with this lawsuit.
Interesting as well, the attorney, and I'm sure the mom as well, stressed that she was not actually, her daughter was not part of that fight, instead trying to break it up, and then is involved in this, like you said, has gone viral because of the video. When it comes to Mayfair in general, how much do you know about the kind of history of the security team at the mall, the reason to have something to the level of a canine as part of the security team there because of other incidents that have happened in that mall over the years?
Yeah, so after this happened, we actually looked at some of the data for the number of calls that happened here at Mayfair Mall. I know in 2024, there were about 150 calls for service regarding disorderly conduct just to the mall. So if you think about it, that's almost every other day that there were calls for service here. So there is definitely a disorderly conduct that happens, and her attorney also brought that up in their initial statement when this all went down. And then you look at the canines were actually brought into Mayfair Mall in 2020, and that was after there was a shooting here that injured, I believe, 8 people. So the canines have been part of the mall security for a couple of years now, and we actually talked with a trainer for those canines earlier this week on Sunday, who said the dogs were initially brought in to detect mobile firearms. So that was back in 2020. He helped train those dogs. They were Labrador retrievers when he trained them. So the dog in the video that went viral is actually a German Shepherd, so it's not the same dogs. But that trainer also talks about how with different breeds, you do get that higher worry that they might, be more likely to bite somebody. But again, we don't know the training that this canine had, and hopefully that answers your question, Carl. Just that the canines have been here for a couple of years, and it stemmed from that shooting, but also several incidents that have happened with disorderly conduct and teenagers fighting, that kind of thing.
No, it certainly does, and I remember our coverage of that shooting but going back to 2020, 8 people shot and injured at Mayfair Mall in an altercation that started with a fight, ended with gunfire there as well, but the difference in the dog breed also notable and interesting. So we've heard a lot from one side of things here, Christina, when it comes to her attorney, her mom, including even some of the previous people that have trained those canines for use at Mayfair Mall. How much have we heard from the other side of it in this case, the mall itself, the private security firm, and what do we expect to hear in the coming days or weeks as this plays out in court?
I'll be honest, we haven't heard much. Mayfair Mall, their PR person said that they're pretty much putting everything, their Andy Frayne services, they're letting them speak instead of the mall itself. So I am expecting to get some kind of statement from Andy Frayne Services at some point today regarding the lawsuit. But we really have not heard much else. I've reached out to them several times over the past 2 weeks for anything they'd like us to include in our reporting and haven't heard back. But Carl, I do want to take you also to the police report that was filed. There was some new information in there that we didn't know, that the video that went viral didn't really capture, and it describes the incident and says that the handler was actually lost control of the leash of the dog during the fight. That's according to a Wauwatosa police report. And in the video, you also see the handler trying to almost pry the canine's mouth open with his hands, and that doesn't work. And I think a big question for Andy Frayne Services is, what was the training like for that dog, and why wasn't there a command to have the dog let go of the woman's leg? Because nothing seemed to be working in that video. But again, hoping to get some sort of statement from the private security company today in regards to the lawsuit.
Yeah, certainly plenty of questions. I know you yourself has asked many of them, as have our other fellow reporters and anchors here at the station. So Christina, thank you very much staying on this story that, as you mentioned, has gone viral. A lot of interest in just the video that people saw, the details behind it, and how it plays out now with the lawsuit against the mall and the security team as well from the attorney of Amira Walls. We'll let you get back to your reporting. Christina, thank you so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
All right, thanks, Carl.
And we will take a short break here on the desk, covering all the stories making news on this Tuesday afternoon in Wisconsin. We're joining you here from Milwaukee, but covering things in the suburbs around the state's largest city, as well as all around the region and the country. We'll see what we find for you on the other side of this break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back. It is 1:21 on this Tuesday afternoon. Carl Defmaw joining you from the Wisconsin Live Desk. We are located here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but can take you all over as we've chatted with some of our reporters on the stories making news today, the things happening by the moment. And I want to see, it's a little bit shaky, but maybe I'll show you what's happening in downtown Milwaukee right now. Lakeshore State Park. This is a closer up view of this planned controlled burn that officials are taking part in right now at the state park. For people not as familiar with downtown Milwaukee and our beautiful lakeshore here alongside Lake Michigan, this is a wonderful park with a walking path right near Discovery World, kind of goes behind the Summerfest grounds as well. And if you've been around downtown or checked out some of the cameras we've shown you over the last 40 minutes or so here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, you've seen some of that white smoke coming from the park. Well, here's a great view of what they're doing. You're seeing some of those firefighters out and about actually setting fires. Well, of course, you think of firefighters trying to put out fires. In this case, prescribed burns, a controlled burn, as they are setting those fires to clear out some of the brush, some of the overgrowth from last year and through the winter as we get ready for spring here along Milwaukee's lakefront. That's a really neat shot from our photojournalist Gabby Nasby there, joining us live here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, showing us the work that is happening to both clean up, restore some of the landscape at Lakeshore State Park right along the shores of Lake Michigan. While that continues here in Milwaukee, a wider view of our gorgeous downtown. It's a chilly day out there, 36 degrees, but beautiful with all that sunshine and barely a cloud in the sky. The Florida Gators are also getting ready to come back to Gainesville as we check out the dance team hanging out and celebrating their squad there. It's been fun to check out some of the actions and activities as they are getting ready to celebrate the return of their team, fresh off a win just last night, just over 12 hours ago. They were victorious over the Houston Cougars. Florida wins it all, 65-63. Just the second time in the history of the NCAA tournament that all four of the teams that made the Final Four were one seed. So not exactly a Cinderella year in March Madness, but still a number of great games, including last night's. Florida holding off Houston thanks to a last defensive stand to clinch it. While that happens, we also have this happening. The U.S. State Department, the press secretary for the State Department is speaking right now, taking questions from the media. Let's listen in to some of the topics being discussed.
2018, the first Trump administration, from withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal, is that it wasn't comprehensive enough. It didn't cover militias. It didn't cover the missile program and a bunch of other of Iran's activities. Is the expectation that this new agreement would have to cover that?
Well, this is a meeting that's happening, right, on Saturday. There's a meeting. There's no negotiations, right? This is a dynamic where the president has made very clear, and certainly the secretary has made very clear, that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, and it's just that I think is the focus right now, the nature of what's happened, and Iran's current situation. I think the president's remarks yesterday speak for themselves. That and he's committed to diplomacy. He's spoken about wanting to have a deal with Iran to get this done, and now it's up to Iran. And if they don't want to, it will be very, very bad for them. So those are the two, I think, clear options here.
This is an initial sort of feel out as to whether to progress.
I think it's touching base. Yes, indeed. But again, it's not a negotiation; it's a meeting, and that's what the commitment is.
And finally, you mentioned that Steve Witkoff is going. Is he
Yes.
leading the delegation?
I can't speak to that, but he will be there. Yes, sir.
Thanks. Can I just follow up from Rich when you're saying it's a meeting rather than a negotiation?
Correct.
The Iranian government has said that it's a matter of they want sanctions relief. Is that something that the United States is prepared to discuss either this meeting or?
Well, again, I'm not going to get ahead of any kind of conversation or process, diplomatic considerations. Certainly, I can't get ahead of a negotiation because this isn't one. So that's not something I can speak to.
In terms of the goal, I know that you said that not prohibiting Iran from having a nuclear weapon, but in terms of how that's achieved, I mean, there's been some talk in the administration. Is this complete dismantlement of the nuclear program, or is it just verification that's not going to go for nuclear for military ends? Is there an end goal that the administration has has when it comes to whether it's complete dismantlement?
Again, I can't speak to their considerations, the contemplations they have, the discussions they have. We do know that there is something very, very clear and distinct that is on the table that needs to be accomplished. And they're certainly, see now, because I have so many opinions. And you're waiting, Sean is waiting for me to kind of, we all have opinions, but what I can tell you is that the very specific thing that needs to be accomplished, which would make the world a much safer place, is to make sure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon, that there is no room around that fact. And that is something worthy of focusing on at this moment. Yes, Nadia.
As you're listening to the spokesperson there for the U.S. State Department discussing some of the debate over nuclear weapons when it comes to Iran and some of the meetings planned between U.S. and Iranian officials, we want to get you back here to Milwaukee. Of course, this is the Wisconsin Live Desk, something happening that we shared with you just moments ago. A prescribed burn, a controlled burn happening at Lakeshore State Park in downtown Milwaukee. Our photojournalist, Gabby is standing by, Gabby Nasby. As I bring up your audio here, Gabby, we're hoping to check in with you on what exactly you're listening to, seeing out there. What has it been like taking this in from, it looks like, a pretty good vantage point?
Hey, Carl. So, yes, this has been a unique experience of what I've been seeing in front of me. So, basically, they have been, walking around Lakeshore State Park burning different section to help out with the environment. As I pan my camera over here a little bit to the left, so this is like the aftermath. So, basically, they are trying to go around the Lakeshore line of getting ready, with spring around the corner, and of course, with it being a little windy, but it doesn't even stop them to come out in the cold while taking care of helping out with the environment planning.
It's interesting to see, and we even made a comment about this. You go around the park, you're driving around downtown, you don't expect to see fires. You also don't expect to see firefighters actually setting fires. But describe again what they're trying to do in terms of whether it's clearing out brush or why this is such an effective method to get things ready for spring and summer along the lakefront.
So according to the property manager, I spoke to her a little bit earlier today. She said to me that the prescribed burn will enhance the prairie habitat utilized by the number of birds and insect species, along with, reducing and improving native prairie success. Followed by that, with the following burn, additional native seeding and planting installations will occur this summer, further improvement with the prairie.
Very interesting. And how long do they expect this to go? If you're out and about today, if you're watching us right now on Fox Local, is it supposed to go for quite a bit longer if people go down there? Or I imagine it's all kind of blocked off.
Some certain sections, they will allow people to come by just to walk around, but there are certain sections, they'll close off. So they're allowing people to stay away from the area where I'm currently standing. So basically, this has been going on since 10 o'clock this morning, and they, according to the experts, they said that this should be wrapped up around 4 o'clock in the afternoon today.
All right, there you have it. Straight from the source, our photojournalist Gabby Nasby, thank you so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. The temperatures today, not exactly warm or summer-like as we see a cyclist trying to get by there, but preparing for warmer days ahead and all of the excitement to come there along the lakefront when it comes to Summerfest and all the different festivals. They are ready to go. Thanks a lot for watching another hopefully riveting edition of the Wisconsin Live Desk, taking you all over the state with a focus here on what's happening as it happens.